welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now, here's the show. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. Today, I want to talk all about Vata season. And of course, the reason I want to talk about it right now is because those of us in the Northern Hemisphere are transitioning into fall or autumn. But before I go ahead with that, I want to start by saying that I understand I have listeners from all over the world, and I'm so thankful to you all for listening into the podcast. And I want to make sure that I'm serving everybody. Therefore, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere and you're transitioning into spring, please check out my podcast episode number 21. Called Preventing Spring Sickness, and it's will give you lots of guidelines and tips about how to approach the spring season. It's also good to familiarize yourself with the qualities of each season according to Ayurveda, and in episode 3 I do that. It's called Ayurvedic Doshas and the Seasons. So that's 2 podcasts you can check out. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about Vata season, which is autumn and early winter. And this is a time right now when we're transitioning where the fiery, intense Pitta energy of summer subsides and the mobile Vata energy of autumn increases in the environment. And just to review the 3 energies that appear in nature, we have Vata, which is the wind energy, which we're talking about today, which rises in autumn and early winter. Then we have Kapha, the water energy, which rises in late winter and spring. And then we have Pitta, the sun energy, which rises in summer. So each dosha has a set of qualities. And the qualities for the Vata dosha, which we're talking about today, are dry, light, cold, subtle, rough, and mobile. Now these, as you can see, are also the qualities of autumn. So they're also found in nature this time of the year with the cooler temperatures, more windy conditions, the drying and the falling of the leaves. Of course, it will depend on what part of the world you're in, right? But you might find these Vata qualities sometimes during summer. And again, it's the dry, light, cool, mobile qualities. That's the Vata qualities. So change is in the air right now, and this can cause uneasiness for some people, and particularly for those who have a high Vata constitution or have an imbalance in Vata. And we want to talk today about how do you calm that uneasy, nervous Vata energy. Well, first of all, before we do that, I want to talk to you about how the Vata dosha goes out of balance in the first place. Well, we have a saying in Ayurveda, and it says, as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. And this tells us that what happens in nature, which is the macrocosm, also affects our body and mind, the microcosm. Therefore, in autumn, as the Vata energy rises in nature, it increases the Vata energy in our bodies also. And this comes along with that principle in Ayurveda, like increases like and opposites balance. So because the qualities of the autumn season are like that of the qualities of the Vata dosha, this can lead to imbalances in the Vata dosha, and some signs of those imbalances, and again, they vary from person to person, but you could have some or most of these conditions would be dryness in the skin, the hair or the lips, cold hands, cold feet, dry, hard, rough stools, maybe constipation, dry, cracking, stiff joints. Maybe you might experience some moving nerve pain, insomnia or trouble sleeping, muscle fatigue. You may experience spaciness, dizziness, tremors, tingling or twitching in the eyes, feeling ungrounded, unbalanced. You may have digestive problems like excessive gas, burping, gurgling in the stomach or bloating. And you may experience increased anxiety, nervousness, insecurity, maybe fear. You also might be feeling restlessness, confusion, a racing mind, or you could be feeling down, possible depression. So these are just some of the signs of imbalance in the Vata dosha. So for those of you who are feeling any of these conditions, I want you to know that this is not your normal state of being, that this is just a sign that your Vata dosha is out of balance. And you can easily bring this into balance with the right foods, with the right lifestyle, with the right dinacharya or daily routines. And I'm definitely going to give you some tips today. Now, along with the environmental change, the Vata dosha can be further aggravated by cold, raw, dry foods, because the dryness, if you're ever having a lot of dry foods like crackers or popcorn, rice cakes, that will increase the dryness in the body. Again, it goes back to that like increases like principle. Cold and raw foods are challenging for Vata to digest on most days, but definitely in early autumn and winter, because there's variability in the digestive system. Some days your digestive fire may be strong, other days it may be weaker. So the raw food is very hard for Vata to digest because the body has to cook that raw food first, then digest it, and then assimilate it. And if your digestive fire is not very strong, then that food will sit there for a long time, causing gas and bloating. So best to stay away from raw food right now. Cruciferous vegetables may also be problematic for the Vata dosha. Things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. Now, before I go any further, there's no one size fits all in Ayurveda. It's very individual. So I may be doing a consult with someone who has a Vata Pitta constitution, and they may not have any problem with cruciferous vegetables, with digesting them. So it really is important to understand your unique ratio of the doshas, because the advice I'm giving today is general advice, but it's not necessarily tailored to you, of course, because I don't know your individual mind, body type or constitution. So again, I do recommend doing a consultation and finding out and determining once and for all what your unique dosha is, and you can click on the link in the show notes for that service that I provide. So cruciferous vegetables can be problematic. And like I said, it's broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. Also, carbonated drinks can be aggravating to Vata as well, all the air in the carbonated drinks. Iced or cold foods or iced drinks, so better with warm foods, warm drinks throughout the day, and definitely no ice. Junk and processed foods. Too much caffeine, alcohol, or other stimulants, especially the too much caffeine, that could really aggravate the Vata dosha, causing maybe some trembling or causing some anxiety. Erratic schedules and too much travel can be very aggravating, and too much sensory stimulation. So if you're trying to do some work and the TV's on the background, there's people talking, that can be very aggravating. One of the biggest recommendations for balancing Vata in autumn is the seasonal cleanse. And this time of year, both in the Ayurvedic and the yogic lifestyles, we do a seasonal cleanse. We do a transition from summer to fall and then from spring to summer. And this is all about removing the excess dosha of the previous season. So at the end of summer, it will be excess pitta, excess heat in the body, and sometimes, depending on where you live, some excess vata. And then in springtime, we're talking about removing the excess kapha. So according to Ayurveda, toxins are the main cause for disease in the body and the mind. And this is why a great emphasis is placed on the removal of toxins in Ayurvedic medicine. Detoxifying the body at regular intervals throughout the year is really an important part of disease prevention. So at the joint of the seasons, like I said, cleansing is recommended so we can get rid of the accumulated toxins from the previous season. And if we don't do that, if we don't take care of this with cleansing, this can result in imbalances in the coming season. Now, I already talked about the signs of imbalance for the Vata dosha. Other general signs of imbalance in the body due to the presence of toxins can manifest in the body in the following ways. You may feel run down or sluggish, lethargic, general lack of energy, a feeling of inertia, like you couldn't be bothered, you don't really care. You could experience weak digestion, feeling bloated, heaviness, lethargic after meals. You may experience irregular bowel movements, and they may be loose or dry depending on your imbalance, maybe constipation or diarrhea. You may experience a foggy mind with the inability to concentrate. You may have an abnormally coated tongue. So on the tongue, this is the ama or toxins of the body. So that white coating in the morning that we recommend you scrape off. This is the ama that builds up in the body. This is the toxins that come from poor digestion. So Ayurveda believes that digestion is critical, right? Good digestion is critical because undigested foods lead to ama in the body, ama or toxins. Toxins are the bedrock for disease. So this white, sticky, putrid smelling stuff that's on our tongue in the morning that we scrape off, this can travel around the body and generally lodges in areas where there may be a weakness in the body, and this is what causes disease, both in the body and in the subtle channels of the mind as well. So seeing a heavy coating on the tongue, that's a sign of excess toxins in the body. And also a general feeling of just being out of balance, out of sorts. So I have an upcoming seasonal cleanse that starts on September 27th, 2018. And if you're listening to this later, don't worry, because I also do them privately throughout the year. But I do have this group online seasonal cleanse, which is a nurturing whole food cleanse, and it's tailored to each person's needs. So I do a 90-minute consult with each person and determine their birth, dosha, and see if they have a current imbalance. And then I tailor the cleanse, the food, to each person. And it's a holistic cleanse. So I also give a yoga video, depending on what type of yoga you need. Also meditation and breath work tailored to you. And anything else I feel you need to help bring you back into balance. So there could be journaling, there could be mantra. Again, it's very individual and tailored to each person. But the cleanse is a nurturing cleanse in that there's a week of preparation where we're just gradually eliminating processed foods, refined sugars, and caffeine from the diet. You have 7 days to gradually reduce that because we don't want you to go into the main cleansing week and just go cold turkey and cut everything out, because that could lead to headaches and other problems. So you have that 7 days of prep where you're just eating your regular food and gradually eliminating those items. And then the second week, we focus on eating easy digestible meals tailored to your body and balancing for your constitution. And we focus on oiling and softening the body to help release the toxins from the fat cells. We're helping to release those fat soluble toxins that the body stored away so they wouldn't aggravate the body, and now we want to pull them out. And there can be physical and emotional toxins in there. And so that's all natural, whole food cleanse. You're eating, there's no shakes, there's no supplements. It's just all food, herbs and spices tailored to you. And then after that week of cleansing, we eliminate the toxins from the body naturally. And then we look into rejuvenation. So in the rejuvenation week, which is really important, and it's very special to Ayurveda, because after a cleanse, your body is left really depleted. So this rejuvenation week is really special and really important because we're using sattvic foods to build back up a strong, healthy cells and tissues. Sattvic foods like dates and mangoes and sweet potato and kale, and it will depend on what's in season as well. Now, it doesn't matter what season you're in, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, whether you're going into autumn or you're going into summer. This cleanse is tailored to each individual, so it doesn't matter what season you're in. I will be tailoring it to each person. And the cleanse really, it allows you to hit the reset button and unpack any of those physical or emotional toxins that are really holding you back from living a healthy, happy, energetic life that's full of vitality. So this is what I want for you. So if you're interested in this cleanse, this upcoming seasonal cleanse starting September 27th, or if you're interested in doing a private cleanse at any time throughout the year, just click on the link in the show notes and you'll get more information there, and you can book your 90-minute online consultation and we can get you cleansed. But today I want to give you some tips. So in Ayurveda, we talked about the principle of like increases like and opposites balance. This helps us to understand that we need to bring in the opposite qualities of Vata's dry, light, cold, subtle, rough, and mobile. Now, by bringing the opposite qualities into our food, into our lifestyle, into our exercise, into our routines, we will balance the Vata energy in our body and mind. So if we go through those opposites then, for dry, right, the opposite we want to bring in will be moist. For light, the opposite will be heavy. For cold, it will be warm. For rough, it will be smooth. And for mobile, it will be more grounding quality. And for subtle, it will be dense. Okay, so we want to bring in these opposite qualities, again, not only in our food, but our routines and our lifestyle. So we're going to talk about food first. So how do we bring in the opposite qualities into our food? Well, we definitely want to stay away from the dry, the crackers, the rice cakes, the dried fruit. We want to stay away from the light. Again, that could be like popcorn, anything that's light, sprouts. It could be rice cakes. The cold foods, the rough foods. Rough would be things like salad or raw food. So one of the best ways to ground Vata is with a diet of freshly cooked whole foods that are soft or mushy in texture, rich in protein and good fats, seasoned and served warm. So you definitely want warm, easy digestible food, because remember, your digestive system is very variable. Sometimes the digestive fire is strong and sometimes it's weak. So you want to make sure that the foods are cooked, so they're partially digested. They've got lots of good fats, and this is going to help calm the Vata by lubricating and nourishing the tissues and calming the nervous system, preserving moisture. So you want to make sure there's lots of liquids in your food. It should look moist and help you maintain warmth. And also these types of food are going to help you support proper digestion and elimination. As we know, Vata can suffer from dryness and constipation, so we want to make sure you're having your daily bowel movements. Now, good fats like ghee and coconut oil, avocado, seeds, and nuts or nut butters are great for Vata. You know, nut butters like almond, sunflower, pumpkin butters with no added sugars, of course. So making sure that they're natural and organic if possible. In a private consult with me, you would get a food list tailored to you, because we would take into consideration, you know, where you are, your birth dosha, your current imbalance. So again, this is just general advice for today. But in general, those are very good fats for the Vata dosha. Eating foods that are in season, of course, so going to your local farmer's market, but things like root vegetables at this time of year, because they have a real grounding quality for Vata. They come from the earth. Stews and soups are the perfect food with warming spices like fresh ginger and cumin and cinnamon, nutmeg and black pepper. And a little bit of salt is good for Vata too, because wherever salt goes, water goes, so you're preserving that water. At this time of year, like we talked about, you want to avoid the salads, the raw foods, the cruciferous vegetables because they're gas forming, the dry foods, and the very spicy or pungent foods because they can be aggravating also. Some warming spices, great, like the ones I mentioned a moment ago, the fresh ginger, the cumin, cinnamon, nutmeg, black pepper, because those are mildly warming and they will help your digestive fire. They will increase your digestive fire. But you don't want overly spicy, pungent flavors like cayenne pepper or chili flakes. And of course, make sure you're drinking lots of warm liquids throughout the day, like hot water or herbal teas. Make sure that you're staying well lubricated, because you have such a dry constitution. You need to keep that intake of liquids. And oftentimes a individual with a high Vata constitution may forget to eat and drink. So I always recommend definitely routine, which we're going to talk about next, in your meals, making sure you're having your 3 meals a day and not forgetting to eat, because when you forget to eat, that can lead to the feeling of anxiety. And also making sure that you bring a to-go cup with you, get a good quality stainless steel or porcelain cup that you can bring with you throughout the day, and then make sure that you're constantly sipping on some warm liquids or herbal teas throughout the day. So that will be really good for you. So remember, we want to bring in more moist, heavier foods, things like sweet potatoes and oatmeal. All those things are great for you. Pastas or grains in the middle of the day. Of course, in Ayurveda, we say we want your biggest meal in the middle of the day. So your food, when you look at it, the food should look moist. It should look heavy, have a heavy quality to it. Now, I'm not talking about comfort foods with loads of cheese. I'm talking about it should look like it's going to ground you, like root vegetables, or like I said, oatmeal or stews. Like it should look substantial. And it should have a lot of either liquids and or good fats, and make sure that it's going to lubricate you. So that's what you want to be looking at for your meals. A Vata person tends to be on the run all the time. They tend to be constantly moving. So sitting down in a quiet space and making sure you're not eating on the run, you're not eating in a car, because that will lead to stressing the digestive system, excessive gas and bloating. So make sure you sit down, set a place for yourself at a table. If you're in a chaotic office environment, go outside, or go to a park if there's one around you, or if there's nothing available, go sit in your car and put on some soothing music and eat away from the chaos, basically, is what I'm saying, so you don't have too much sensory overload. So there are some tips. And again, the food, if I do a consult with someone, I tailor it all to each person. I give you a food list. We talk about your meal plans. So this, again, is general. Okay. So the routine is key for balancing Vata, as it will ground the body and the mind. And even though Vata sometimes like to be spontaneous, so the routine can be challenging, but the benefits are so huge, it's almost impossible not to bring in routine. It's important to have routine in sleeping, waking, and meal times. As a person with a high Vata dosha can have trouble sleeping, like I said earlier, can forget to eat, and all this can lead to anxiety, and it can just have a snowball effect throughout your day. Routine in bedtime is key, and having a nighttime ritual where you prepare your body for sleep by calming the mind and the nervous system is so important. So things like disconnecting from your devices at least an hour to an hour and a half before bedtime. Making a warm nighttime drink like the Turmeric Golden Milk, which I gave out that recipe before, and I'll put a link in the show notes to it. Or you could just do a warm drink, like a nut or seed milk with some spices like cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg. They're warming spices, and nutmeg really helps with sleep also. Doing an oil massage with some sesame oil, the abhyanga we talk about. Now, the sesame oil is warming, and it's also heavy and grounding, so it's very balancing for Vata. But on a side note, I want to mention that if at the end of the summer season your pitta is high and you use sesame oil, it's going to be too heating for you. So best to use coconut oil if you're showing signs of excessive heat in the body. Okay, again, you would get tailored information on this in a private consult. But for now, for general, the Vata is best with the warming and the grounding sesame oil. And using an organic sesame oil, obviously not toasted, okay? So those little tips are really great, along with writing things down, like your to-do list. So what happens when Vata is out of balance, the mind can be spinning. And if you have a to-do list going around and around your mind, you and repeating it, that can be really aggravating. So at the end of your workday, writing down your to-do list. And at some point in the day, maybe before bed, if you want to journal your thoughts or what happened that day, and this helps you digest them so that you're not waking up in the middle of the night and your mind is racing. And again, that can be a sign of a Vata imbalance, waking up in the Vata hours between 2 and 6 a.m. And sometimes if the Vata is very out of balance, this can lead to a time when it's hard to get back to sleep and there'll be a lot of mind spinning. So if you're journaling before bedtime and getting all those thoughts or any situations that happen through the day down on paper, this can hopefully clear the mind and leave it calm for sleep. So doing some calming breath work as well as you lay in bed. If you're finding that you're having a hard time getting to sleep, doing something like deep belly breathing can be great and lull you off to sleep. I've put out a pranayama breathwork tutorial before, and I'll add that into the show notes again so you can have that. So click on the link in the show notes for that breathwork tutorial. So in that tutorial, I do a variety of different breath work, but I recommend the deep belly breathing at night, which is simply just putting one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest, inhaling for a count of 4 or 5, and then exhaling for the same, a count of 4 or 5. During the day, you could do like a Nadi Shodhana, an alternate nostril breathing, which is very balancing for Vata, and that's on that tutorial as well. I'm going to talk a bit more about mindfulness practices in a minute. So bed by 10 p.m. is key for everybody, but in particular for the Vata dosha, because at 10 p.m. the Pitta energy rises in our internal clock, and this is to do with the circadian rhythms, and this is what gives us a second wind. But this energy, this second wind, is not for us to be up and working or watching TV or eating. This is energy comes in for our internal housekeeping. The Pitta energy rises at 10 o'clock. Hopefully we're in bed. That means that energy can be used 100% for digesting the food and thoughts of the day, for rejuvenation, for detoxing, and preparing you for the next day. So if you're up and using that energy of Pitta to do other chores or work or just watching TV, that means you're draining the energy from your body, and it means that the next day you're going to be lethargic and foggy-minded perhaps because you didn't allow that natural process to happen. So bed by 10 is key. And if you want to know more about the circadian rhythms, I did a whole podcast on it. It's podcast number 8, and that details the whole 24-hour internal clock that we have. And if you need help implementing healthy habits or routines, you could check out my Daily Habits for Holistic Health course. It's a 4-week self-paced online course, and this really guides you through implementing these good habits and setting yourself up to live in accordance with the circadian rhythms. And we talk about the gunas, the qualities of opposites, and we talk about the mind. So you can check that out. Link is in the show notes. The next thing I want to talk about here is exercise. So because Vata is like the wind in nature, always moving, Vata sometimes have a hard time sitting still. Their leg could be bouncing up and down, or they could be fiddling with something. There's a lot of energy there. If you go do some very active and vigorous exercise, that will aggravate your Vata dosha. That will increase the Vata in your body. And particularly if you do it late in the evening, it's really going to give you a hard time for going to sleep. So we want to bring in the opposite. We want to bring some chilled out, relaxing exercise. So things like walking in nature. Walking in nature is very grounding. If you can go barefoot, that would be amazing. Walking on the beach barefoot, very grounding, very calming and soothing for the nervous system. Things like Tai Chi, swimming, other slower practices, maybe like biking, something that's where you're focused on connecting into your body. They're really best for you, making sure that it's not too high stress on the body. You definitely don't want to be out of breath. You want to be able to breathe through your nose while you're doing an exercise. Dancing is also nice, again, nothing too intense. Now, for mindfulness practices, meditation, a grounding meditation practice can be so beneficial to calm the anxious Vata mind. And practicing meditation daily for about 5 to 10 minutes in the morning and or in the evening before bed to calm the mind. I really recommend in the morning. if you had to choose whether morning or evening, literally wake up and sit up in the bed before you even get out of bed. Sit there while you're half asleep, that lovely, peaceful, quiet time of the morning, because now if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, you'll hopefully be getting up before with sunrise. And so it's a very quiet time of day when there's usually very little stress. There's nobody bothering you. Your mind hasn't switched on to your to-do list yet. So this is a great time just to sit up in bed, close your eyes and do some meditation, like I said, 5-10 minutes. And because the Vata mind tends to race, it is ideal for those of you with a high Vata constitution to focus on something during your meditation. So that could be counting your breath. So an inhale is 1, an exhale is 2, going up to 10. And then going back to 1 again. Of course, if you lose count, it means that your mind has wandered, so you have to start back at 1 again. You could also visualize something in nature, something that's very grounding, like a rock or the roots of a tree. You get the idea that you want to focus your mind on something so that it's not wandering off into thoughts and getting caught up in virtual stories. But if you are visualizing something, that you're visualizing something very grounding, like the roots of a tree going down into the earth, a rock, a mountain. Meditation is very individual, so you kind of have to experiment a little and find out what works for you. Also, yoga is great. Like a slow restorative yoga practice is great for helping the Vata dosha connect into the body and get out of the mind. So if you have a busy day where you can only, do some exercise or mindfulness practices in the evening, well, then I would recommend like restorative yoga or yin yoga in the evening, because that will really calm that Vata energy and prepare you for sleep. Also, a slow-moving Hatha yoga class is good too, where the instructor gives a lot of alignment points. So you really want to focus on pressing your hands down into your mat and your feet and focus on alignment. Sometimes you may get out of balance, so you may need to put a knee down or a hand down on the floor, using blocks, using props, and finding a yoga instructor that will give you that alignment points, that instruction that you need. So staying away from the fast yoga, which will aggravate you and is too fast moving, and more focusing on yoga practice, which will bring you into the body, hugging the muscles to the bones, and really focusing, like I said, on the hand and foot placement and using lots of props to support you. Doing like a long shavasana or corpse pose at the end of class is lovely, where you can put an eye mask on and you can put heavy blankets on your body. This is very soothing to the Vata dosha. The Vata dosha loves a cocoon. So you might find, if you're high Vata constitution, that you wrap yourself tight up in the blankets for bed at night, and putting an eye mask on and putting earplugs in or cotton wool with a few drops of sesame oil on it. All those can be very soothing for the Vata dosha. So creating that little cocoon at the end of yoga class, or definitely in your bedroom at night. And another bedtime yoga could be yoga nidra, which is a guided meditation that you can do while laying in bed. And there's lots of those available on YouTube. You can search and find, an instructor that you like for that. So there are some mindfulness tips. We talked about breath work already. A simple 3 to 5 minute breath work practice can do wonders for balancing and calming Vata. And I talked about the alternate nostril breathing, or the Nadi Shodhana, which can be practiced at any time of the day. And it's a great tool and really efficient, quick tool that you can use for times when you're feeling anxious, or if you're going between tasks and you have a hard time, transitioning, or if you just came home from work and your head is buzzing, and that it can be a great time just to do a few rounds, like a minute or two of Nadi Shodhana. And I give the instructions how to do that in that Pranayama tutorial, and I'll link it in the show notes again. And we talked about doing the deep belly breathing at night, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, just focusing on the breath, and that can stop that mind from wandering and going into mind spinning mode, and that can be helpful to lull you back to sleep. So there are some tips with your food, with your routine, which is key, with your exercise and mindfulness practices. Now, of course, just a reminder that the seasonal cleanse I talked about earlier will bring your body and mind into balance. So I highly recommend that, because this will take away all that guesswork of what you should and shouldn't be doing. You'll get your set meals. You cook in batches, so it's easy. It's you're not cooking every day. And then you'll get your yoga and your meditation and your breath work tailored to you. And you'll bring your body and mind into balance and unpack those accumulating toxins from the previous season and help you transition into the next season, preventing illness and making sure that you're not getting those usual sicknesses at the change of seasons, like coughs and congestion and colds. So by doing the cleanse, you can help eliminate the physical or emotional toxins that are trapped in our fat cells that are really holding you back. We want to get rid of those. And rejuvenating the digestive system, making sure that the digestive system is working well, because modern science is now agreeing with Ayurveda and saying that 70 to 80% of our immunity is housed in our digestive system, in our gastrointestinal tract. So in turn, this will also boost our immunity, our immune system. It will help us regulate our bowel movements. It will calm the mind and the nervous system. A cleanse will bring clarity to the mind. A cleanse will also help install good habits, or reinstall them if you've lost them over the previous season, and bring in some good routines for sleeping, eating, and lifestyle. And like I said, it helps you hit the reset button on the bad habits causing imbalances in your body and mind, and it promotes clarity and vitality and just a positive outlook on life. So if you're interested in the cleanse, like I said, we have one coming up September 27th, 2018. If you're listening to this after the fact, I do private cleanses all the time, but just check out the website. I do the seasonal cleanses, the joint of the seasons between summer and autumn, and then between spring and summer. Now, if you're not interested in the cleanse, I always recommend taking advantage of my free 20-minute discovery call or booking an online consultation so that you get tailored advice to your needs. As we say in Ayurveda, there's no one size fits all. So I really recommend investing in that consultation so you're taking the guesswork out and you really can just get your health on track, get educated about your mind-body type, and have the confidence to make decisions for yourself and take charge of your own health. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that this information about the Vata season helps. And again, I thank you for your support. And if you think that somebody may find this podcast episode helpful, if they feel like you have someone in your life who's Vata imbalanced, please forward it along to them. That would be great. We're sharing the information of Ayurveda and trying to help people come into balance. And this will definitely help improve our relationships and our families and our communities and so on. Thank you for your support. I hope that you are well and healthy, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Take good care of yourself.